faster than I thought it would, but I think we're good to go. I wanted to show you some things here, various isopods and stuff like that, but let's see who's in the chat. Oh, we've got a mortality here. I need to adjust that. I need to remove the dead one so I can dispose of it properly. That's sad. Thank you. So let's see who's here. We've got Random T and Faye Cat. Oh, Faye Cat, I remember you saying you might come into the stream. It was on Instagram or something, wasn't it? We talked about that. And Hobby Strange Pets and Mega Moose Fly, Jade X, Frank the Tank, Sherry Edwards, Finn Ice Bear, Sean Meister, Michelle Bailey, Paeve, J-Man to you. Excellent. We've got lots of people here. Great to see you here. All right, so let's take a peek first at my Armadillidium Gistoi zingers, because that's what I put in the photo, the thumbnail. So I wanted to share that with you. There's Sandy too, Mark C. Lemon, Wendy Hickson. Great. So let's take a look. There are some adults right there. Looks like about 5 on the cork bark. I want to make sure they don't fall out. There are babies in here. Let's see if we can see any babies here. I don't see any on the cork bark, but down here, I bet if I lift these leaves, oh yeah. I can see a load of babies. I don't know if you can. There's a bunch right in there. Mixed in with springtails. There's one right there. I'm trying to operate the live stream camera and show you babies is a little complicated, but this colony is doing well. This comes from Racktastic Racks. This Azanthic Zinger Morph, which I love. Super, super cool. So let's see. I think I saw a question. J-Man to you. Small colony of powder oranges. They just had a brood of babies, but I found 2 pretty near adults dead in the wet area on their backs, barely twitching. What is wrong? That is hard to say. What could be wrong? How much of the area is wet? How much is dry? What's the ventilation like? We'll start out there. See what we can come up with. And Mantis God is here as well. Young lad. Awesome. Cool. And the Wraith is here. Hey, welcome. Cool. So I'm going to put these away because they're all hiding now. Small colony, so they're not as, quite as outgoing as they will be later. Let's see. This next one here. And Mantis God, thank you. I'm glad to be on too. So spaghetti legs, considering a mixture of alder pellets, leaf litter, organic topsoil, charcoal, and sphagnum moss, do you think that'll suffice? Kind of depends on the millipede species. If you're going to go for something like bumblebees, I'd say yes, especially if those alder pellets are fermented. If they're not already fermented, then they're not much use to the millipedes until they do ferment, which could take a long time. You see here some Armadillidium CF Espagnoli marbleized. There's a little juvenile right next to at least a subadult. There's another adult in here. There are babies in the substrate. Mostly I see springtails right now, but recently I've seen offspring of various sizes. So this colony is a new one. Not a whole lot going on there yet, but there is reproduction. Excited to see it. So, and Landauer 67, welcome, first time. It's awesome. Okay, so J-Man, I might add a little bit more ventilation. I feel like they do better with more ventilation than some, and by adding a little bit more, you might find that they do better. That would be my suggestion. And let's see. So I would say to spaghetti legs, if you're doing scarlets, you could probably get away with it with decent supplemental food. But if you can get some better substrate in terms of, you know, some flake soil to add to that mix, I think you do better. These are Cubaris marina glacier. Just kind of wanted to check in here. I think I saw some reproduction in here recently. So wanted to see what I could see if I just, poked around a little bit. And yes, there is a baby glacier right there in the middle of the screen. And I think I saw another one too. So we are getting reproduction in the Cubaris marina glacier. Excited to see that. So I see another one to the right of it a little bit. And yeah, so that looks like two different clutch sizes too, which is awesome. The Cubaris marina glacier. New culture for me, doing well. I kind of like to show you some of my new projects and see how they're getting on. Here's Cubaris marina papaya, which I got at the same time. These came from David Farelli and Sparrow. So let's see what we can see in here. Cubaris marina papaya. There is a specimen right there. Get a little bit of close up on that color. Fantastic color. And let's see what we can see in terms of reproduction down there. I don't want to dig too much because I don't want to upset anybody. But anybody see anything besides a billion springtails, which mostly what I see right now. I recently looked in here and some were adults, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, just a billion springtails is what I see right now. That's usually a good sign though. If the springtails are thriving, the isopods are usually thriving too. They just happen to be in a place I can't see them, I guess, right now. So let's see. So going back to check the chat as I show you some other things. Here, let's take a peek at this and see what's going on in here. This is my party mix bin. I split it recently, so it's not quite as crazy as it usually is. My other bin is a bigger one, so there aren't as many here. So going back to check the chat. Okay, so Random T, I comment about the Sterilite. If me, Wally, Biggs, etc. wonder if the Sterilite people are wondering, why are we selling so many Sterilite bins? Could be. So Javi, I don't have Porcellio werneri at this point, although I think that's a cool species and would like to have it at some point. So Finn Ice Bear had dairy cows for about a year and 4 months, now started culling around 15. You just haven't bred yet? Huh. 15 individuals, a year and 4 months. Now that's weird. Is there something going on in the substrate we don't know about? Do you have like something else living in the substrate or something else going on? That's quite weird, Finn Ice Bear. Walnut. Found some teeny millipedes in my backyard. Look like scarlet millipede is black, just shrink to around 1.5 inches long. There are many species of millipedes in the family Julidae, and it's probably one of those. That's probably as far as I can get at identifying it, is just saying it's probably in the Julidae family. If you go to get a really good picture of it and post it to something like bugguide.net, somebody might be able to help you out a little bit more than that, but it is hard to say when you got the Julids. And Cassie, awesome! You set up your Bitty Bugs LLC. That's fantastic. Bitty Bugs is the one that sent me some of my Armadillidium magic potions, Armadillidium vulgarium magic potions, and that's Cassie's company, of course. Armadillidium paraci, and some other projects that we're working on to try to see if we can get going. So that's fantastic. Glad to hear it. And congratulations on that. That's an excellent step. And Faye Cat says, I got a scent of 11 Pentakings from Isopod chicken. I think they're dead, and I don't know why. The place is nice and humid. Do they burrow really deep? I can't find a single one. They do tend to burrow a fair bit. If you haven't seen their bodies dead, I'm guessing they're still around. As long as you know, it sounds like it's humid. They didn't dry out. They have some ventilation. I would assume they're probably not dead. They're probably okay. And it might be a while before you see them, and then all of a sudden you'll have a billion, because that's how they tend to breed. So Emily has no problems with armadillos trying to climb out of the plastic bin. As long as the plastic bin is clean and not scratched up, they typically can't climb smooth, dry plastic. And Porcelia is coming in tomorrow. Cool. As long as they don't dry out. That's the one problem, the caveat with not using a lid, is that they can dry out faster than you might think. But as long as that's not happening, you'd probably be okay. So the Wraith, how long does it typically take for a new P. laevis colony to start producing babies? I would say if you don't see babies within a month, that's kind of weird. If you don't see them within 2 months, that's very weird. Even if they start out small. Yeah, I generally see them very quickly reproducing. So Rocky, wild isopods, mostly peacecaber, avulgari snails and millipedes from the backyard. They might be okay. It's just hard to tell. There's so many different things going on. It depends on what you mean by okay. You know, with the species of isopods and millipedes you may eventually get one that outcompetes the other. A lot of times the small julid millipedes will do okay with isopods because they're so prolific. So you might have some that get eaten, but not enough to bug the not to bug the millipedes and stuff. So yeah, hard to say. It might be okay for a few years, might not. There's just so many unknowns, really. But I hope they're okay. And I've seen people do setups like that worked for a while. Okay, I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to talk about some more stuff. So this is my orange crumbles project. These are orange crumbles I produced, and this actually relates to a question that was posted by a patron. So I'm going to pull up Patreon, and we're going to answer some questions on Patreon, if I can get the comments to show up properly. They were being weird. Okay, so this is a comment from Abby M. Says, I have 2 colonies of Porcelionides pruinosus, which is this species right here. Fantastic, check that out. I think it's a little bit out of focus, but let's try that. Is that going to be better? Or is that just my glasses messing me up? So anyway, 2 colonies of Porcelionides pruinosus, powder orange and powder blue. I've noticed that I will occasionally find a blue individual in the orange colony, but frequently I find multiple oranges in the blue colony. Is the orange coloration dominant in Porcelionides pruinosus and the blue coloration recessive? Okay, great question. And I'll see what I can do about answering that for you. I'm going to try to get a little bit closer up. And is that coming in clear? Are we just having a fuzzy day, or is that my glasses? Let me know. Anyway. And I think they do get in the cholla wood, Sandy. I just saw that as I turned the thing back on there. So, Porcelionides pruinosus. The blue is the wild type. The blue is dominant over the orange. And one way I know that is that generally most of the color traits in isopods that show up, not all, but things like lava trait and what's another one? Calico, are not just simple single gene recessive traits. But most of them are. But the other reason I know is because I took Oreo crumbles and oranges, and Oreo crumbles have the blue trait. They just also have a pied trait. So they have the wild type with a pied trait overlaid on that. And that's a single gene recessive trait. Then, as far as I know, and it acts like one. Then I took the oranges, which that's a single gene recessive trait, put a bunch of baby ones of both of those together, and in the first generation, I produced some wild types. They appeared to be wild types. They were visual wild types, but they were double het for the pied patterning and for the orange trait. And then when those reproduced, I got some orange crumbles. And that is exactly what you would expect if blue is the wild type and orange is recessive. And that's what I got. And that is how I produced these. I did buy some orange crumbles from Kyle Candili and lost the entire colony, unfortunately, due to some drying issues. It was not Kyle's fault at all. They were breeding like crazy and doing fine. And then when the weather changed, they didn't get watered quite enough and they died. In the container they were in, and I moved them into a different container. These are all orange crumbles There's a few oranges in here still, but the orange crumbles that I produced myself. Every orange crumble you see in here is a result of the cross that I did. So that should answer that question. I think it's a great question. So thank you for asking, Abby, and hopefully that helps. I also have a question from Beatrice J. And she says, a couple of questions actually, says, is it possible to have a cleanup crew with heterometrous Peter's eye? Well, let's answer that question a little bit more directly, shall we? That is a kind of scorpion. It's an Asian forest scorpion, that genus. Heterometrous is the Asian forest scorpion genus. There are several in the hobby. Oh, looks like the water dish is empty. We're going to have to fill that up. Here, let me get the excess dirt out of there and we'll fill up that water dish. Probably got, when I was moving it around after the expo, probably got dumped out. Don't want it to get too dry in here. For a tropical species like this, that's a problem. It's even a problem for desert ones if they get too dry, so there we go. We're going to add some water there. And I have a heterometrous. And to be honest, it was sold to me as an Asian forest scorpion. So I don't know which species specifically it is, I just know the genus. I got it when it was a tiny little wee scorpion, and it has molted several times and grown quite a bit bigger. It used to live in a 2-ounce deli cup. So it's it's grown a lot. 1 second. Since we're here with the scorpion, looks like it might actually start being in pre-molt soon, I'm not sure. But we're going to do this because why not? Because we can, right? It's fun to do this once in a while. You don't want to do it too often for your scorpions. But I might have to see if I need to polish my lens. So this is my heterometrous scorpion. And I do have a cleanup crew in here, Isopod cleanup crew. So let me see if I can carefully, I don't want to upset the scorpion, carefully show you what kind of species we have in here for a cleanup crew. If we can see any right now, hopefully it's not. It's a little dry in here, but oh, that's upsetting the scorpion like I didn't want to do. You can't see any right now, but this has dwarf purples in it. Dwarf purples is the species that I keep in here as a cleanup crew, and it works fine. So I would suggest a small species like that for your heterometrous. And these are tarantula cribs. Tarantula Collective has these, but Tarantula Cribs is the one that produces them. Tarantula Cribs enclosures, I love these. They're excellent for things you don't want to escape, like centipedes, scorpions. I have a number of them, and they're awesome. So these are indeed Tarantula Cribs enclosures. So Michelle, suggestions for cool isopods that would be good for plains garters bioactive enclosures. They're 3x2x2 PVC enclosures with the Biodude substrate. Well, you know what I keep with my garters so far? Bioactive isopods. I use clowns, and they work great with my red-sided garters, and I'm sure they would work well with your plains. The only problem is they might nibble on plants some, but if you don't want to do that, you've got a lot of options. So you could do most of the Porcellio with garter snakes, since you don't have to worry about eggs and they're not particularly sensitive. So like Faycat laevis would be fine with garters. Porcellio scabra would be fine with garters. You could use Silisticus convexus. So Miss Maggie, the mold issue, you can sift through and collect each isopod and remove them. They might carry some mold spores with them, but it's more about what's going on in the enclosure than it is about what you remove or don't remove, I think. So you can try removing excess mold and adding springtails if you do not have any. But that will... yeah, just taking them out and moving to a new enclosure won't necessarily fix the problem, is what I'm saying. But you may be able to add springtails and address what's causing the mold, and then you can actually solve the problem. I'm hoping that's helping. And that's clear what I mean. So let's see. So do the enclosures work well for isopods? They definitely do. Just one second. This is one of my main dairy cow enclosures right here. I really like these enclosures a lot for a lot of things. And this one is my dairy cow enclosure, like I said. So if I were to lift this up, you can see here's my, did I say dairy cow? I meant rubber duckies. Sorry. I don't know why I said dairy cow. But yeah, the rubber duckies like these enclosures. They do really well. So I would say they're excellent for isopods. This one gives a great amount of ventilation, cross ventilation and top ventilation without an excess of ventilation. So Hyla regilla's isopods. Have you seen the new powder pink morph of P. purinosus? Can't wait till we get pink crumbles. Wow, no, I need to get a hold of some of those for sure. So that sounds awesome. Mantis god, ooh, got a brown widow or something. Ooh, I'm sorry. Hey, Pup314, welcome. So, Spaghetti Legs, could you do a video on flake soil and how to substitute pellets for the sawdust? Well, I actually did a video on flake soil with Permian Exotics, and we did one with Kevin Nasser too. We talked a lot about flake soil. So those, I would recommend checking out those interviews. Basically, the sawdust is the pellets. All you have to do is soak the pellets in water and they become the sawdust. So no big secrets there. Pretty easy to do. So Zepmaster, the expo was awesome actually. We did really well. I got to talk to a lot of people that watch the channel, which is always fun. I really enjoy doing that. This is what I hate about limestone, is trying to put the isopods back down. So I'm going to have to carefully scrape a couple of these off here. Not scrape, but you know what I mean. Just ease them off so I can set this back down very gently. So it was a really fun expo. Got to meet a lot of people, like I said, who watched the channel. That was really fun. Some of them were surprised to see me there, and that was also kind of fun. One thing that I did that I really enjoyed too is I got to sell Supreme Isopod Chow for the first time, which was really fun and successful. We sold quite a few containers of Supreme Isopod Chow, and we did well at the show as far as selling things, and a lot of educational visitors too who enjoyed learning new things about what we were doing. So it was just fun all around. Probably, well, financially it was definitely the best show I've done, and it just fun-wise meeting people. I mean, it's always fun to have a show and meet people, but that was a great one that way too. So J-Man to you. Okay. Yeah, if you add the ventilation, it just might help. That's what I'm hoping. And if the others are doing fine, that's a good sign. Here's our heavily pregnant female garter right here. Could be any day. She's showing some scale spread, as you can see, and is acting, you know, she's refusing food and stuff. So I think she is about ready to give birth. She's getting big. And she loves to climb all over everything, get into stuff. Okay. So I just thought I'd say hi with her. Okay, so Zepmaster, you asked about limestone at the expo. Okay, so hopefully I told you, I remembered to tell you that it can be heavy and you don't necessarily need it in the enclosure. It's great, but it's got its risks involved too. So hopefully I remembered to tell you that. And yes, I did get the door on the garter enclosure this time. Oh, you know, Mentis God, talking about the small sauce enclosure. I had one of these in my pocket, not this one has food in it, but one of these that was ventilated in my pocket when I got off the train today. And on the train platform, I saw a little male Phidippus audax. And I thought, he's going to get stomped on. So I scooped him up into the deli cup and then brought him home and released him on the south-facing wall of our house, the brick wall. So that was kind of fun. I always try to keep one of those containers if I can. Oh, and there's Closer. Excellent. I got to talk to him at the Expo. I don't know if you want me to use your real name or not, but got to talk to him at the Expo. And he bought some pods from me and some Supreme Gecko diet, Supreme Isopod diet. So, yeah, it was fun. If I am able to live stream the birth, I would love that. I just have to catch it. Like the last time that we had, it was May 24th last year when she gave birth. I think it's going to be earlier this year by a bit because I woke her up a little bit earlier, and I think they ended up successfully locking up about a week earlier. So I'm looking at maybe 3 weeks earlier than that, which is any time. And she did not obligingly give birth when I wanted her to, when I could film it. I came in Monday morning super early to check on her before I went to work, and she had already given birth, so I missed it. So we'll see what happened this time. Oh, you know what? We need to talk about Beatrice's other question, Patreon question. Her other question was she wanted to put Benoetolus siamensis, the fluorescent millipede, in with them, in with the Heterometris scorpion, Heterometris petersii, because it's a fluorescent millipede. It fluoresces like scorpions do, and that would be pretty cool. But that could be a problem. She's wondering if she could put the millipedes in first, or if the scorpions would eat the cleanup crew, or if the scorpions would die because of toxins. It is a real possibility that the toxins could harm the scorpion, the toxins the millipedes possess, since most millipedes do possess a toxin of some sort. It is a real possibility that those could be damaging to your scorpion. So I would not advise keeping them together, even though the idea of them both being fluorescent creatures sounds really cool. I think that would be a possible issue. Oh, a time-lapse camera to capture the birth would be awesome. I would love to try that. This is one of the possible fathers, or possibly the way garters work. Could be a father of part of the litter, or the father of all the litter, we don't know. This is Houdini. He tends to have a little less red than the other male, Rufus, and he's also got a yellower coloration to his stripes. And so, Kevin, at what age do these garters reach sexual maturity? To dig into that, I'm going to say approximately a year, but it also depends on food and different things. And it's better to wait for the females to be a little older, maybe breed by the time their second year, which is when Ruby first produced offspring, was in her second year. And the males can mature a bit faster than that, from what I understand, and they don't have to be very big to mature. But they were starting to try to mate around 10 months old. So they were trying to mate. They did not successfully mate, but they were attempting it at 10 months old. And Derek, at what percent of their full-sized Hoffman's egg eye tend to start breeding? I would say around 1 to 2/3 of adult size, probably closer to 2/3 in my experience. And Kevin, there is indeed an incident behind Houdini's name. I was going to go with a red theme for all three of them. So we have Rufus and Ruby, and I was going to name him something else, and I think I did temporarily name him something else. But within a few days of having them, I had them in a bin that should have been escape-proof. It had a locking top and whatnot, and was also too tall for them to climb out of. But they splashed or knocked over the water dish, or somebody else did, and that caused condensation to form along form along the edge of the enclosure, and they were able to climb up the condensation. They were so tiny at the time. And climbed up the condensation. He did, and he got out. The other two did not. And then about a week later, I found him unharmed in the hallway. Completely unharmed. So I had since, I immediately purchased another enclosure with a gasket lid and moved the other ones into it. And by the time I captured him, I already had that container set up. And so I put him in there and have not had issues of that sort with him since. So Joe's 20. I am actually working on a project. Welcome to the stream, by the way. And I'm working on a project with Parakai from stock from Bittybugs. And I'm going to do a video about it eventually, but I think I can give a little bit of a spoiler here, that Bittybugs found some pied Parakai in stock that Cassie had, and sent me some additional stock. One of the original Parakai stock that Cassie sent me produced one pied individual. Then Cassie sent me a few more. And it got really cold when we were shipping and lost a lot of them, but did get a few, and so we're working on getting a pied Parakai morph going. So, Sandy, can you still take reservations for Garter babies? Yes. We don't know exactly how many babies she's going to have, but guessing from the, looking at her, probably more than 20. Last time she had 22 babies, 21 were healthy, one was stillborn. So with 22 babies, I'm expecting she's going to have more than that, to be honest. So, and I have about, I think 13 or 14 reserved right now on the wait list, and maybe not all of those will actually go to those homes. So if people still want to reserve a baby on the wait list, all you have to do is message me. You can email me, you can do a Facebook message, you can do Instagram, whatever. I need your name, your email address, your phone number, and your zip code, the number of snakes you want, and the sex, desired sex or preferred sex of the babies, if you do have a preference. Like if you want 2 males, you want 2 females, you want a male and 2 females, a female and 2 males, just that kind of stuff. So you let me know all those things, then I will put you on the list. And then once the babies are born, I'm going to contact everybody on the list again and say, do you still want to be on the list? If somebody doesn't want to be, I'll drop them off, and we'll go from there. So not your average Aquarius, you were at the Expo. I was upstairs. I was not far from Clint. Let's see, and not far from Don's garter snakes. So I was sort of kitty corner from both of them, in sort of the middle of the room. Well, not the middle of the room, but the inner level, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of hard to describe it. By the sink, upstairs. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry I missed you there. What day did you go? I was only there one day too, so that could have to do with it. I was only there on the Saturday. All right, so whoever wants to be there for the snakes, just send me a message as soon as you can. We'll get you on there. So Theropod Hunter, have you heard about the blonde red edge Cubaris morph? I've heard of the white ones that are just pure white, but I've never heard of the blonde. Do they still keep the red edge? Whoa, Kevin, you had the king snake end up in the Cresty enclosure? That's crazy. How'd that worked out? And Dustin, hey. Thank you for joining in, and glad you could catch a live as well. I love to hear that my videos helped you decide to keep isopods. So that's awesome. Okay, well, not your average Aquarius, hopefully next time. And Derek C., have you considered getting any of those spiked isopods? Maybe some of the ones that are not the Cuban ones, because I think there are some legality issues associated with those. But maybe someday, and well, I don't think any of them, I don't have a permit to receive any of them now, so I'd have to get them from within my state, but they're super expensive right now. So I do not have any immediate plans to get any, but they are popular and expensive. I do know some folks are going to try to get them breeding. If they get them breeding in my state, then possibly. Not if I have to drop like $400 to do it, but if they come down in price, then I might do it. Anybody got requests? I think this guy's getting restless. I want to put him back in. About what we see here, what we look at. Rufus, I don't want to take him out because he's just about to shed. So he's not in the best of shape right now. He probably doesn't want to be taken out. He's very friendly even when he's shedding, but I don't think he would be particularly excited about it. So if you have a request about what you'd like to see, I would try to honor it if it's a practical thing to do. And I think you're right, Kevin. If there had been too much of a size discrepancy in favor of the snake, I think that's exactly what you would have had. Corn snakes, I mean, king snakes are not terribly discerning about what they eat, are they? This is that microvarium. There's a Porcellanides prenosus, a pretty big one. I put one individual of that species in, still doing fine. There's a bunch of zebras in here that somehow, I'm not sure how they ended up reproducing, but they did. There's a fairly big milkback in there too. I think what we ended up with after all of that, some things died off. I just see a bunch of zebras, a milkback, and a Porcellanides prenosus. So they did seem to, the direction this experiment of several species put together ended up that the zebras are in the process of outcompeting the others. I don't think the milkback or the Porcellanides prenosus are in particular immediate danger of dying out, but individually. But as population, I think the zebras are eventually going to overtake this vivarium. Let's see. Okay. So Random T, I don't think you've ever seen your geckos. It's been a while since I've had a gecko on the stream. I've done it. Done geckos on the stream. They're difficult to get from here. But let me see. I've got too many things plugged in. But let's see. Maybe I could do the Opiola. Morning geckos are producing lots of babies. I just got, I actually sold off, how many babies? I sold out of morning geckos. The Expo, I brought juveniles to the Expo. I think I sold, I'm moving the camera, sorry. Moving the camera here. If I can make that work. I sold off, I think, six morning geckos. I think is what I sold. Okay, here we go. We're going to try to look at the Opiola. This is the Opiola setup with some macroalgae. They also have Melanoides tuberculata in here, the snails. You can see some of those in the algae that grows in there. That's those little dark specks in the algae are Melanoides tuberculata. Let's see, there's one on the glass. There's one of the shrimp there. Sorry, the glass is a little dirty. I'm not sure what's going on there, but something smeared across the glass. There's a bunch of them in here. I don't know how many, but these are my Opiola. You don't see a ton of them right now because they're not feeding, so a lot of them are going to be hiding in the rocks and whatnot. But you can see a few of them. Let's see. Okay, I do have Armadillidium espagnoli. I actually showed them at the beginning of the stream, but I could see if I can get them to work again. So Zero Cool, have a hard time reproducing zebras, more luck with panda kings. Interesting. And Derek, hello, welcome. How do you care from springtails in Moonrock from PetSmart? Do they have springtails in Moonrock? That's interesting. So theropod hunters, would copepods be good for glass cleaners? Huh. Glass cleaners, I don't know if they'd be the best for that. I do tend to keep them. in freshwater setups. I keep them with my Daphnia. This is, let's see if I can get a decent shot of some of the Daphnia up here. Yeah, this is my Daphnia and scud grow out container, and I have copepods in here. I just culture them in here and feed them off. You can see the scuds are the ones that are doing the smooth swimming, and they have the longer bodies, and the Daphnia are the hopping ones. So that's what's going on here. Then here, let's move over here. Sorry, just trying to get back to where in the why can I not remember the name? Tripod. There. Okay, thank you to the moderators for catching the spammer. Somebody asked me about Marulinella, and I don't remember who it was, but at the Expo the other day, I can't remember his name now. Why is his name escaping me? Anyway, from Mark's Ark, which is a local pet store here, and he works at Mark's Ark, runs Mark's Ark, and he gave me some Marulinella species of Vietnam. It was very nice of him. I had not worked with any Marulinella, so I think it's pretty cool. And I just put them in this setup, which I had been maturing for a while, getting the the springtails going and the leaf litter decomposing and whatnot, which you can see it's been going since January, so going pretty well. The thing is, they're really fast, and there aren't very many in here yet because it's a new culture. Oh, I just saw one. I don't know if you did. But they're a really fast species, and he was saying they may not even be Marulinella, just based on how fast they breed and how fast they move. So I'm not seeing any right now anymore. I saw that one run by. Oh, there's one. You see that? They got those red orange edges, and they look super cool. This is a superworm beetle, which I put in there on purpose as a larva to help mature the substrate. I've been experimenting with that, and it seems to work really well because to mature the substrate, you can put springtails in, and that works really well too. But just to speed it up, since the beetles eat a fair amount of food and produce bacteria-rich frass, if you just put one larva in, it can help kind of speed up the process, and then you can take the one beetle out. It's not going to reproduce in there because there's only one in there. So it's kind of cool. All right, so they're male mourning geckos. They're rare. They do exist. They're quite rare, but I've heard of them. And they just, they apparently they're not fertile, and they're not very common, but they do show up here and there. So there's that. There was something else I was going to show you guys. Oh, hold on. I want to show you my two of these species here while we're doing stuff. This is my Armadillo officinalis culture. It's fairly new. It's a newer group for me, but I've got them in several sizes. They have been reproducing. Let's see, you're probably going to see more under here. There's some in the background. You can see quite a few of them here, and then some on the wood here. They get pretty big. See, that's a decent sized isopod. They have a kind of a funny shape to them too. I don't know if you can see that. This is the isopod species that stridulates. Can't really tell if it's stridulating. I try to be gentle with them, but anyway, they're pretty cool. So sometimes I worry about bat guano and possible disease transmission, to be honest. but I don't think it will harm the isopods. It might be dangerous for people, but organic potting soil is what I use as my main substrate. So if it had bat guano for cubaris, I don't think it would hurt them either, but it might hurt people possibly. And then you have the issues that if it's fresh bat guano as opposed to composted bat guano, what Frank de Tank says is a very valid point. It can be high in nitrogen, can produce gases and be decomposing and causing issues. So Gorgonzola, roaches be used as cleanup crew as a part of one. For which species? For isopods or just as part of a cleanup crew with isopods? Because some people do that. If you bake the bat guano, I think actually you might lose some of the benefits of the bat guano if you bake it, and it would still have a lot of the same nutrient issues in it. I mean, it might be good as far as the possible zoonoses or diseases that it could cause. That's true, but it might kind of negate some of the bacterial benefits of it. So pros and cons, I guess, because a lot of the reason why guano is good is that it's full of bacteria that the isopods like. So Dan, a lot of times I leave out the wood pellets now, because I can give them wood other ways, and they don't necessarily respond extremely well to. Well, I shouldn't say they don't respond well. They respond just fine to the wood in that it doesn't cause them any problems, but older wood that has had a chance to decompose partially is where all the benefits are. And so if the wood has not decomposed, it's not doing them a whole lot of good. If you leave it in there long enough and the conditions are right, it can decompose, and that's fine, but it doesn't do them a whole lot of good until it has done that. So I feel like just adding the wood pellets, not necessarily vital, so I haven't done it as much. Now what I'm doing now is I'm very carefully removing just a couple of these orange koi specimens, because what I like to do, I want to get some, keep this colony a really high expression. A lot of these specimens are really high expression, where you get a lot of patterning and so on. But what I do is I remove the ones that have lower expression. So they're either almost all orange or almost all white, or in some cases they can be a different color, like a wild type, like these specimens. And then I just put them in with my lottery mix, and then that helps add some interesting things to that gene pool. So this is just a normal thing that you do with isopods that have pattern expressions. So Fay Cut's got orange and whites from culling the non-spotty ones. Awesome. So enclosure on the right side of the screen, that's what my vinegar is in, and I'd like to get us a few more. So talking about one of these, Kevin, this enclosure right here. If that's the one you're talking about, then I will tell you. I'll tell you anyway. But sorry, everybody, just had an issue. Minor issue, knocked over a bin, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Nope. Recovered. Okay. So, there we go. Sorry about that. Just technical difficulties in the background there. So Kevin, okay. So let me close up this one. This is my orange koi, right? It's labeled, of course. I just can't tell from the top because it's not labeled on the top. I always put the labels on the front. So this enclosure here is Pioneer Plastics makes these, and I just drilled it. So what I did is I got some painter's tape and a very small drill bit and put the painter's tape down, and then a lot of times if I want to get a really nice even hole distribution, I will just mark with a pen using a ruler, mark it on the painter's tape, and then I'll just drill along those lines in the marks on the painter's tape. And that's what I did to make this enclosure. And I've done it with quite a few of the enclosures, and it works great. I kind of like that method. These are fairly cheap enclosures, and Pioneer Plastics makes them. You can buy them on Amazon, some of the big box stores that carries, you know, craft supplies will carry this kind of stuff too. So that's what I use. So Jade X, hard to say. That's an interesting thing that you were able to find some of those. Just wanted to point out some Vanoni's ornata, see how they're doing. They might need a little bit of water on that side of the enclosure. I missed the other side, but this side looks just a wee bit dry maybe. Missed them a little bit there. And then I'm going to close that up. Oh, we got, from Mantis God, we got a super chat. Thank you so much. Enjoying the show and tell. Glad to hear it. Delighted to hear it, and I appreciate the support. While we're doing show and tell, I just barely split my third pseudoscorpion culture off right here. I don't know if we see any pseudoscorpions along the side, but I added a couple of gravid females, I think maybe 3 gravid females, and some adults and subadults to this enclosure. So hopefully we'll get the pseudoscorpions going in here. So I do have 3 of those enclosures right there. The original is right here, and this is the one I did in August of last year, and here's my April one that I just did. So that's kind of fun. I do have to leave a little bit early because my daughter has a dance recital, and I don't want to miss that or mess that up. So I should actually head out now, but I wanted to tell everybody that I appreciate you being here. Here's a little shot of my velvet spider and her little web that she's created there. I think it's a female. And the other side of the web right over here, you can see a little tunnel there. She's doing well. She just took a big cricket yesterday. So I have some other things I want to show you soon, and I gotta go. So thank you everyone, and we'll catch you next time.